Welcome to the People's National Congress Reform and Leader of the Opposition press conference for May 9th, 2025. Joining today's press conference is Mr. Aubrey C. Norton, Member of Parliament, Leader of the People's National Congress Reform, the Partnership for National Unity, and Parliamentary Opposition. Today's press statement will be read by the leader.
Stop the cover-up of the murder of Adriana Young. It is now clear to all right-thinking Guyanese that the PPP regime and the Guyana police force are seeking to cover up and sweep under the carpet the murder of Adriana Young. This is unacceptable, unlawful, and unjust. In the light of the attempt to cover up this matter, the President and other senior PPP officials must publicly declare what is their relationship with the owner of Double D Hotel. The attempt by this rogue, totalitarian, and dictatorial regime to bring a retired police homicide investigator is unacceptable and must be rejected out of hand by all right-thinking Guyanese. While we cast no aspirations on the investigator, Irfan Ali and the Guyana police force cannot be trusted to choose an investigator and determine the terms of reference. We in the opposition stand by our previously stated position that a reputable international organization must be invited to undertake the investigation into the death of Adriana Young. Nothing less is acceptable. We note with concern and alarm that PPP-linked persons and news media are seeking to transform the Justice for Adriana movement into a race issue. We call on all Guyanese to reject this approach and continue to be united as we demand justice for little Adriana Young. Our prayers continue to be with her family, friends, and all Guyanese as we pursue justice for Adriana. Stop the misuse of the anti-terrorism law. We are not opposed to people facing the full force of the law for looting and other violations of the law. However, we demand that the government release all the innocent bystanders they have wrongfully incarcerated under the guise of fighting terrorism. We in the APNU also believe that the charge of inciting public terror under the Criminal Law Offense Act must be withdrawn and be replaced by an appropriate charge under the Act. We see the use of the offense of inciting public terror as an abuse of power and an attempt to silence and instill fear in those demanding justice for Adriana Young. I thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll take questions on the press statement. Mr. Adam Harris. I believe you're muted. One moment. All right. Ms. Davina Bagat, while Mr. Harris checks his audio.
Hello, good morning. Davina Bagat with Pncr News. Mr. Norton, you said earlier, if I heard you correctly, that the PPP is trying to cover up the murder of the 11-year-old. But can you say on what grounds, on what grounds are you saying this?
I'm saying it on one particular ground. From the inception, I shouldn't say one, on more than one ground. From the inception of this issue, the police sought to mislead the public. Why would you want to mislead the public if you had a genuine interest in getting to the bottom of this issue? But what you did was to send out false information stating that the young lady had left, the child rather, had left the hotel in a wrong. Correcting it is not enough. The fact is, you misled the nation. Why would you mislead the nation? Because you have something to cover up. You know, fate is a funny thing. Nobody wants anybody to die. But when that man died in the pool in Linden, it should have been obvious to all that Adriana was placed in that pool and she didn't drown in the pool. Now, I grew up in a place called Christianburg in Linden, close to the Demerara River. There were many drowning incidents, and I cannot recall one occasion where a body would have um, rise under 2 days of drowning. Miraculously, the body was not found when the pool was searched. And out of the blues, the body emerged in the pool. Now, that says to me clearly that the body was placed in the pool. I've said before, merely saying the young lady drowned doesn't solve the critical issue. What is evident is that, no, I should go now to what the president and others would have said, tried to suggest that there was no foul play. I do not know how they can rule out foul play when there was no proper investigation. The pathologist might have said that the person would have drunk, but like Dr. Todd said, telling you that the person would have drunk does not tell you the manner of death. And when one looks at all the things that surround this, clearly it's an attempt by the Guyana Police Force and the government of Guyana to cover this up. The alacrity with which we see this government move when it comes to other people, like the young lady who Barajagdio falsely said put perpetuated violence in the public domain. As I understood it, the young lady did the recording and she didn't put it in the public domain. And I don't intend to defend her. But when you put together everything that is happening, it is clear to even Stevie Wonder that the young lady, the child was murdered. And it is on that basis I say it.
Okay, two follow-up questions, please. Are you satisfied with the time it took to acquire the services of this investigator? Or do you believe the family should have been informed at least of these efforts being made by government in that regard?
I am totally opposed to the government identifying an individual to do the investigation. This is a corrupt government. This is a government that admitted in the local government election that it's forged signatures. Why would you allow a government that has no relation whatsoever to honesty, to decency, to choose the person or persons to investigate a murder when the very government has already made pronouncements that there was no foul play? That says to me that they predetermined. And I do not know that this government is a decent government that will engage a person and do not seek to ensure they get the outcome they want by perverting the course of justice. I've seen this government gone after everyone, but I made the demand that they go after Mandal, but they didn't. And so this government has no credibility. It is corrupt. It is totalitarian, meaning that it attempts to control all aspects, the total life of Guyanese citizens. They have used contracts to do that. They have used CCTV cameras. I want to come to the CCTV cameras. Technology in itself is useful, but if you have a corrupt government that uses the technology only when it suits them, then you know that they cannot be trusted even with technology. And in this case, they have not provided one shred of evidence against many of the people they would have incarcerated. I heard Jack Dale glibly saying all those who break the law should face the law, but then he should, because Sue made it pellucid as is practically possible that there are serious allegations against him for bribery and corruption. He also, when challenged, when it appeared that Mohammed is likely to run, he then said that they can charge him for murder, or they will. Now that supposes, or one can easily make the assumption that they probably had the information from the CCTV camera, but only when it suits their interest, they will utilize it. I'm not saying Mohammed did or he didn't. I'm merely pointing out to you that the People's Progressive Party has the tendency to utilize CCTV cameras when it suits them. And therefore, they cannot be trusted.
Thank you.
Why haven't they investigated the man with the wet pants? If you were serious and the international world looking at you, the international world went look at the videos, extract information and provide it there, then something is wrong. You cannot even tell us who is heading this investigation. How are you talking about a thorough investigation when you cannot say to us, is the crime chief or the crime thief, whichever one, investigated? So we cannot take you serious. We believe you want to sweep it under the carpet. We believe you're using the situation in a way that will not result in the true findings as to what happened to Adriana Young.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Comrade, how do you react to the accusation that this issue is being politicized?
Now, one can react in different ways to it. If the claim is that we in the opposition is politicizing it, then I would say this. If you call bringing the facts to the fore politicization, then it is. But if you're saying that it was fabricated to achieve political objectives, then I disagree. The fact of the matter is matters of murder that should engage the Ghana police force. If it isn't engaged in a proper way, it is the task of the opposition to speak on it and expose it. If you call exposing the corruption in the Guyana police force, if you call exposing the fact that the commissioner is neither certified or qualified to be a commissioner of police, if you call pointing out the misinformation provided by a senior police officer, if you call pointing out that nobody seems to be in charge of the investigation and you are not saying who in charge, if you see that as politicization, then I will agree. It is well politicized because of your incompetence.
Quick follow-up then. For example, Dr. Dexter, the lawyer, is involved in this process. Yesterday, Mr. Jagdio described him as a mediocre lawyer. Do you concur with that description?
Look, Jack Dew's approach is always to tarnish the image of people who are more intelligent than him. I mean, it's easy to be more intelligent than him. It's not that he is some sophisticated academic He isn't. He's a piece of trash who attempts to attack everybody that exposes the PPP in him. Now, Dr. Todd, unlike the so-called Dr. President, pursued his studies, did a proper dissertation, adjudged by credible university as having a PhD. I don't know what Jack Deo has that permits him to describe him in the way that he did. All I would say to you, I have seen Dr. Todd handle issues, and when you raise intellectual issues, he can respond. I have never seen Jack Deo respond in an intellectual manner. He always behaves like a yard fowl, takes off his frock and begin to abuse out. He has no class. I can say to you that Dr. Todd is a reputable lawyer, and Jack Deo's attempt to tarnish his character or describe him in some fashion will only resonate with Jack Deo and those who are blind to him. In our book, he's a reputable lawyer. He does his work. And what Jack Deo should be doing is responding to the concerns raised rather than attacking his character. But then to ask him to rise to that level is to ask him to do the impossible. He knows no decency. He has no understanding of professionalism. He's just a piece of it.
Thank you. The floor is still open for questions.
Yeah, if I may, one last question.
Go ahead.
There were a series of incidents, wanted bulletins posted for people supposedly involved in incitement and engaging in terrorism and all of this. There was a wanted bulletin for two men who allegedly doused a woman and her two children with acid. It has turned out that the man who threw the acid is supposed to be the reputed husband or partner of this woman. But there has been no official statement. Were you made aware of this situation, sir?
Well, we continue to do our work. We found out that the man was charged, placed before the court, and was placed on bail. That is the information at our disposal. We observed that from the time it occurred, the PPP and their trolls attempted to blame the Pncr for it, and the APNU and the opposition. Now let us recall that I pointed out very, very early that the PPP will seek to transform this into a race issue. That was another attempt. You do not think they know full well that it was not? Which sane person, except you have a mind like Barra Jack Deo, will want to throw acid on a woman while she has two children? That to me comes from a mind that is not a normal mind. And so the fact that the government is now silent on it is because they knew full well they was taking a matter that had nothing to do with politics and trying to transform it into a political issue. Like I said in the press statement, we have got to consistently guard against this issue becoming an ethnic issue. From the inception of it, both major, well, three ethnic groups, because there were Amerindians there too, the three major ethnic groups in this country approached this issue, stayed in front of the hotel because they were confident the child was in there. The police misinformed about where the child is. It turned out that the child was in there. It turned out that all three major ethnic groups were there in support of the family. The government only hope right now is to transform it into an ethnic race issue so that it can rally people based on race. I've urged the Guyanese people not to fall for it, not to allow this government to transform this process into a racial conflict. The PPP is bent on doing that. I've said that before. And I thought if the PPP was serious, they would have investigated that matter with the two children and let the facts come out. But because they want to use it for political mischief, and if you could charge the whole PPP, they would have been in front of the court for inciting public mischief and violence. But you know, it wouldn't happen for now. But we are very clear that nobody in the opposition was involved in an attack on any child and teacher, and that we regret that the incident did occur at all. However, we noted the attempt of the People's Progressive Party to use it to divide the Guyanese society. That we will continue to oppose.
Thank you. I'll open the floor for any other questions as well. Ms. Baggott?
Hi, thank you. Two very quick questions from me, please. Mr. Norton, at a recent press conference, the AFC said that the seventh oil project should not be approved without ring fencing. My first question is, do you agree with that position? And secondly, sir, could you share your views on Exxon moving to award contracts for FPSOs and other elements relating to projects that have not been approved as yet by government?
Let me start with the first one first. I expect that Exxon will be a responsible corporate entity. And therefore, we do not expect that Exxon will do something that violates the law. However, it's the government's responsibility to ensure that the law is enforced. And if there are to be proper environmental impact assessments, then they should be done. As it relates to ring fencing, we have generally said that we believe ring fencing is a useful tool, that we will look at every specific case and ensure there's ring fencing. I have not looked at the figures, but when we do look at the figures, if we are satisfied that the cost has already been recovered from the initial investment, we will surely support ring fencing. But at this stage, I just don't want to speak for the sake of speaking.
But Mr. Norton, this project's application has been pending for quite some time. How much more time do you still need to review the numbers in relation to ring fencing?
Go that again?
I'm saying that the application for the seventh project has been made for quite some time. It's been out for quite some time pending. How much more time do you still need to make a determination regarding ring fencing?
Well, if I were you, I would look at the question differently based on the answer I gave. I thank you for the question, but the issue here is not how long it is out. To me, when you're doing ring fencing, is to protect your resources and to ensure that there's not the use of resources from one project on another project. And it is for that we need clear data and will support ring fencing once the money that was invested and there is the appropriate return under the investment, we will support ring fencing in that circumstance.
Thank you. The floor is still open for questions.
Mr. Norton, Dennis Shabal, sir, is your party or the wider APNU in discussions with Mr. Ashdin Mohammed as a partner in the coalition? And if so, how are those talks progressing?
Well, as I am aware, there are no such discussions ongoing. And even if they were ongoing, I'm not so sure, Dennis, I would have offered views on it. I've always said that when you are negotiating, until all is agreed, nothing is agreed. And so the answer is so far we have had no discussion with T. Mohammed. I made it very clear very early that we had no such discussion. As far as I'm aware, none is there, but we are a political party and we know you never say never. You analyze every situation and address it as it comes along.
Why would you say never in light of the fact that he has been sanctioned by the United States?
Go to question again.
Why would you say never as a political party when he has been sanctioned by the United States?
Could I ask you something which will answer the question? What happens if you wake up tomorrow morning and the United States say there's no longer sanctions on him? The next day it would be the same?
Well, for now, the sanctions are still there. So I'm asking now, in light of the current circumstances, why would you say never?
Because I would talk with anyone. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to support them or come up against them. But I believe as a political party, we should hear all sides and then make our decisions. The United States has sanctioned him. The United States looks after its interests. We have no problem with that. But as a leader of the opposition, we will have to keep everything in constant review and then make whatever decision we think should be made. Look, the government is making a lot of noise about Mohammed, but this government was in bed with Mohammed. To now make Mohammed the number one demon in the world, when you were defending him, to me, is disingenuousness at its best.
Even though it was a pre-sanction period with which they were cozy?
Go that again?
Even though it was a pre-sanction period when they were cozy.
You know, let me say this to you. A government has access to intelligence and all kinds of information. If you say to me that the government had no knowledge before the sanction, then the government should resign.
Thank you. Mr. Adam Harris.
A clarification, Mr. Norton, quickly, if you'd allow. Would you consider it, though, risky from an international relations perspective to embrace Mr. Mohammed in a coalition or to have him embrace your party or the wider APNU in an election?
Anything you do in this life has negative and positive, including embracing Mohammed.
Mr. Adam Harris.
Sir, I'm a member of the PPP government. I must backtrack. The party issued a statement which claimed that a man was released from custody based on a phone call by a member of the PPP, and that he boasted about this. The member name is threatening legal action, and she talked about being aware of separation of powers and all of that. So, how accurate was the statement that the magistrate backtracked and released this man on a phone call?
If you look at our post yesterday, you would see we got the case file. And on the case file, the magistrate stated that he was remanded to prison. And then the next day, he was released. So we know it is accurate to say that all of them were remanded, but only this one PPP activist was released. That's a fact. The second thing is, why, if no crime had occurred or no mismanagement, why did you move the magistrate? Because immediately after this became known, they moved the magistrate. I believe the removing of the magistrate is an attempt to protect the minister. And this all the time. They sacrifice public servants for their political interests. And I see this as just another case of the People's Progressive Party using the power at their disposal, first to have people remanded, and then you have one release, and then you try to defend it by blaming the APNU and by transferring the magistrate so that you appear to have acted. One of the hallmarks of the People's Progressive Party is that they always take action to appear to do something, but in essence, they do nothing. If you go back, we were promised a thorough investigation into the death of Orrin Boston. Until now, none. We were promised a thorough investigation into the death of Quindon Bacchus. None. The young man that died in Linden, Ronaldo Peters, Irfan Ali came out and said there'll be a thorough investigation. None until now. The second one that was charged, that was killed, Fajine, they promised a thorough investigation. None. Since then, they have not said to the people of Ghana who is investigating, what is the state of the investigation. Let us recall the case of the two Henry boys and Harry Singh. They said the same thing. This government is prone to arresting innocent people and put them in the lockup, but doing everything to ensure the guilty goes free. And we have to keep objecting to that. That has become a norm in this dictatorial government's approach.
Thank you.
A quick question just for clarification.
Go ahead.
So you said they removed the magistrate. Do you mean the government? And if that's the case, what authority does the government have
The government
to intervene?
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, to intervene in matters of the court.
Legally, they don't, but everyone knows they do it all the time. All the time. They intervene into the legal system, the judicial system, to achieve their objectives. And so, while they really have no place in law for it, in practice, that is what they do. And observe, a lot of time when the police act is after the Attorney General pronounce, which is clearly an indication that in that particular case, you see a situation in which they dominate and control the police and intervene. It's a little clearer there. But there is also evidence that they place people in judicial positions who they can control and use them a lot of times.
Thank you. The floor is still open. Is there any other questions?
Mr. Martin, then Shabal, then, sir, could you say to what extent or how great are your chances of removing the PPP in the absence of a coalition with the AFC?
The PPP will be removed from office. I don't know what a question of chances. The PPP has done everything to ensure that they are removed from office. The only thing could save the PPP at this stage is if they succeed in pushing the race card and it become an ethnic issue. And even with that, I think the PPP will be removed from office. Any right-thinking Guyanese, including some of them who running around the PPP, will not vote for the People's Progressive Party. Everybody is seeing what is emerging. They are now talking about using cameras to do surveillance on the average Guyanese. You think the ordinary PPP people in know that after they finish what they're doing with their opponents, they turn inside? A lot of PPP people are convinced that the government is no good. We went to the Essequibo, and you might have seen some of the videos, and it is evident that people in PPP strongholds are now satisfied that the worst government ever in the history of this country, even worse than 1992 to 2015, is the People's Progressive Party under Irfan Ali. That's a given. From that standpoint, I have no doubt that the People's Progressive Party will be removed from government.
Thank you. All right, with there being no other questions, I want to thank our media personnel for joining today's press conference and, of course, our viewing audience. We do hope you manage to enjoy this weekend.